Beneath the gently rolling hills of Appalachia, a deadly secret burns.
I got 50,000 barrels of cyanide rolling down there right now.
Protected by the silence of a town living in fear.
Young'uns are dying. People down here don't take strangers. They do a hard day's work, go to church on Sunday, that's it. We have a special visitor to our community.
Now, an outsider has come into their world.
You really are new here. Gotta stand out and open door.
To reveal the danger.
What's this smoke over here in the mountains?
Oh, they've been burning that mountain for 12 and a half years.
Protect the innocent.
You look prettier than a speckled brook. That's just what I was gonna say.
And expose the conspiracy.
I made $16 million on this deal. You think I'm giving it back?
One of these days you'll say, the money ain't worth what's gonna do to my people.
You need to be careful about slinking around here.
Somebody's gonna get hurt. It's gonna get a little hot around here.
Who are you?
I'm a federal agent.
I mean, honestly, this is the same movie as On Deadly Ground. I mean, it's literally the same movie, except Steven Seagal isn't working for the bad guys, and instead of it being oil rigs as the main thread here, it's the fire department, the EP, is because, you know, it's just like, you've seen this movie over and over and over again, not just from Steven Seagal, but other movies of this type, and you got to have an environmental message in it because Steven Seagal has to try to do that to try to save whatever dignity is left in his career. And, yeah, this film just crashed and burned big time on so many levels. It wasn't a hit at the box office for obvious reasons. It came and went. Seagal's name was pretty much not relevant anymore. Like, this is the beginning of his downward stretch until he eventually heads into direct-to-video territory. We gotta make him the leading hero in this, and we gotta give him the big environmental message in here. The environmental message that doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. We gotta give him a female lead to go along with her, Marg Helgenberger, pre-CSI. Hey, there's Harry D. Stanton. Here's Stephen Lang. Chris Christopherson is the bad guy in this movie. Hey, here's Randy Travis. Here's Travis Tritt. Here's the Lynn sisters. Here's Kane Hodder. Like, let's get all these people together that really serve no purpose to the story here, because we got to appeal to Middle America, because we got to have all these country music performers in here. Like, it's just a mess of a film, man. Like, do you really need to see this movie to know what the message of the film is going to be? Like, really, there's no real reason to see this movie, and I didn't even want to see this movie, honestly, but it was back when I was trying to see as many movies as I can, and I put this on thinking maybe it was going to be something, and definitely wasn't. It was the only thing it was is one of the most boring movies I've ever seen. And like I said, it's basically just On Deadly Ground, except take the oil out and put fire in as the main threat of it. It's just like, there's just nothing here. There's nothing that interesting. There's nothing that engaging. There's just nothing there. It's just like, it's a boring movie. It's one of the most boring action movies you'll ever see, and there's been a lot of boring action movies out there, but this is one of the most boring ones ever. Nothing of interest happens in this movie, and you're only really watching this movie if you're still part of that slim fan club at this point of Steven Seagal's, which, like I said, had gone away, had pretty much been dying down by this point. Like, we're in the low point of his career as a leading actor. Like, this is just a couple years away from his direct-to-video era beginning, and he did not make one single movie from this point on that was even remotely memorable by any means necessary. And what more do I gotta say, man? Fire Down Below is a terrible, terrible movie. So, and this is gonna be a very quick one because I did not see the next movie here, but I'm already gonna assume it's a lot better than Fire Down Below is. It's Latin Boys Go to Hell.
It. Oh, no, that's right. I like them a lot. Yeah.
How are things with you and Taurus, anyways? Lovey-dovey as usual. Yo quiero buscarte en cada
Yo, you know about this club? What club? The one I went to last night?
Yeah, it's probably not a good sign if Wikipedia barely has a page. It doesn't even have a page for it, and you have to go to one of the stars of the movie's name on there in order to find out anything about this film. But as you can tell, this is a gay-centered film. You have 5 young Latinos with extreme passions interacting and eventually exploding in this New York City story of self-discovery, friction, and resentment. One of the characters is named Justin. His incredibly handsome cousin Angel comes to stay with Justin and his mother, and he's overcome with attraction, but there's one problem. Angel is straight and fascinated with Andrea. While Andrea is contemplating Angel, her best friend, Braulio, Braulio, I think I'm pronouncing that right, but if not, I apologize. Her and her boyfriend, and his boyfriend, Carlos, are having their own relationship problems, and one of these relationships crashes violently, affecting everyone else in a profound way. And like I said, I really don't know anything about this movie in particular. I've never even heard of it. Only thing I know about it is that it has Guinevere Turner in the cast, and she was also in American Psycho, as well as The L Word, and was the writer for the notorious Betty Page, which are obviously notable films. But this movie in particular, I don't know too much about it. I don't know if it's any good or not. I don't really have a real interest in seeing it, but on IMDb, it's got like a 5 out of 10, which is not very promising whatsoever, so I don't even know if this movie's actually any good or not. So I doubt it if there's nothing on the page if there's nothing on Wikipedia about it. Like, usually when you don't have anything on Wikipedia about it, usually your movie is not really all that memorable, unless something crazy happens where it should be on there, and then they just delete it for no reason. But I've seen nothing on here to say that otherwise. So, like I said, I don't know if this movie's any good or not. I don't really know for certain if it is any good. Maybe it is. Maybe Wikipedia is completely wrong on this. But if they're not doing anything, if they don't have a page on there to really show what this movie's about, that's probably all I need to know about this movie's lasting legacy, honestly. So that's Latin Boys Go to Hell.
Elizabeth, online trip?
Your ex-wife. I know who it is. Take a message. Consumer Recreation Services. Call that number. Why? They make your life fun. I'll call them. Do it. For you. I said I'll call, okay? It's just that I hate surprises. What are you selling?
Oh, it's a game.
A game.
We provide whatever's lacking.
And what if nothing is lacking?
Admit to yourself that it sounds intriguing.
I need the police. There's been a break-in in my house.
No money, identification, line of fix.
Let me toy with a bunch of depraved children.
You're with them, the guy and the whole thing.
What are you talking about? You brought them to me.
I am a very wealthy man, and whatever they're paying you, I'll double it.
Who did this to me? Why?
There was an incident a few days ago.
Don't you stop that!
A nervous breakdown, they said.
I am very fragile right now.
Nicholas, you're not about to shoot anyone.
What do you get for the man who has everything?
Of course, Michael Douglas plays this wealthy investment banker who's given this mysterious birthday gift by his brother, played by Sean Penn, and he participates in this game that integrates in strange ways with his everyday life. And as the lines between the banker's real life and the game become more uncertain, hints of this larger conspiracy begins to unfold. And like I said before, this is David Fincher's follow-up to Seven, which was this big, groundbreaking, critical, and financial blockbuster hit that put him on the map. And so there was a lot of high expectations for this movie when this one came out. And the film did very well. It made more than its money. They made its budget back. It still made over $100 million worldwide, but it was still seen as middling box office considering what Seven had eventually become. Even though Seven made $100 million domestically, I think this one made about half of that domestically. Let me just double check here. About $48 million. So yeah, about half through it. But so yeah, it was, for some, maybe it was seen as kind of a step back, but in terms of the movie itself, it's nowhere near as good as Seven, but it's still a pretty damn good movie. It's still a really well-made film, and it works all the way through, except maybe the ending is a little bit of a cut. The ending is sort of be polarizing for a lot of people. Some people like it, other people do not like it, and it's really, like, me personally, when I first saw this movie, it really did get to me, but as I've seen this movie more and more, I go back and forth on it. Sometimes I really get into it, and so other times I can kind of see it coming a mile away, even though it'd be a while since I see films like that. But But the movie itself is still really good. It's still a very, very solid film. I mean, Michael Douglas once again proves his worth as an actor. Like, he's still making a ton of great films in here. Sean Penn has a great role in here as well. The cast overall is great here. You have Deborah Kara Unger, James Rebhorn, Armin Marler-Stowe, even Charles Martinet. Like, Charles Martinet, of course, who is Mario in the Super Mario Brothers games. He's in this movie playing the father of Michael Douglas, which I did not notice that until I recently watched this movie again. It's just like, wow, that's Mario playing the father of Michael Douglas's character in this. That's pretty interesting casting when you really think about it. So that's something that I really didn't know about until now. And I didn't know Spike Jonze was also in the film as well. He was also in here too, playing this airbag EMT from Beltran. Yeah, like I said, as far as the movie itself goes, I think it works well enough. I think you have the benefit of having the writers John Puncato and Michael Ferris, who would later go on to write. They originally wrote for Married with Children back in the 90s, but then they went on to. This was their first movie they ever wrote this was not their first movie they ever wrote together. I'm looking at the thing right here, is because like it's. What am I trying to say here? Like, I see all these other movies on here, but they also did The Net, is what I think I should be saying. They did The Net, they did Terminator 3, Rise of the Machines, which is not a great Terminator 2 sequel, but it's still better than what Salvation and, not Salvation, Genesis and Dark Fate ended up becoming. I like Salvation. It's one of their early films where they became very notable. They had just done The Net, they've done this movie, and then the next film they did was Terminator 3, and then after that was Catwoman, and then that's where their career kind of took a downward spiral, because they then did Primeval, and then Surrogates, and not a whole lot of great movies after that, but overall the script I think is very good. In fact, maybe the ending doesn't work because it's those two writers and what they eventually would later go on to do. But David Fincher's directing and the cinematography overall does make this movie more than worth it, along with the performances, along with the twists and turns. If the ending had been a little bit more clear and a little bit more unique, and not make me question it every time I watch it, maybe I could have really appreciated this on the same level as something like Seven. But it's still a really good movie. It still works on a number of levels, even if it doesn't reach the peaks that Seven hit just 2 years prior to this. It does show the strength of David Fincher as a director, and he's later going on to show in his career. Like, after this, of course, he would do Fight Club after this. And I mean, he hasn't made a bad movie since Alien 3. All of his movies on here, I mean, you've got Fight Club, you've got Panic Room, you've got Zodiac, Curious Cases of Benjamin Button, Social Network, Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, Gone Girl, Mank. I mean, these are all quality films. He has not made a bad film since Alien 3, and the hope is that he will continue to stay that way, because looking at this filmography again, I thought there would have been a couple of misfires here and there, but no, he's been pretty solid all the way through. Probably the least enjoyable of these films was Panic Room, and even then, it wasn't a terrible movie. It was still a decent film, but this guy has been a pretty damn good director for a long, long time, and the hope is that he'll continue to be that way, because I really do not see a bad movie on his resume, and I'm hoping that this next film he does, The Killer, ends up being pretty good too. But I digress, though. The Game is still a really good movie. The ending just needed a little bit more work, but everything else about it is still really good. I'd highly recommend checking it out. If you love David Fincher's work and you have not seen this, you need to check this movie out. So that's The Game. Let's go ahead and move on to the next movie we have here. A very interesting little film I found here called Different for Girls.
A movie that asks the question.
So anyway, no look. You didn't indicate, did you? You saw.
What would you do if your best high school buddy became the girl of your dreams?
I know this sounds like a line from Top Gun or something.
No, we don't know each other from somewhere.
Are you sure? Because it's like uncanny.
Would you turn her greeting card life
I have a sentiment requisition for a man out fishing in a boat.
into tabloid headlines?
I'll ring you back.
Surprise! Go on.
I just didn't know what was appropriate.
So, yeah, you can definitely see why this is a very interesting movie. You basically have the story of two best friends who were very close friends during their school days, and then they go their separate ways, and then they meet up again, only to realize that one of the guys, Carl, has undergone gender changing surgery and is now named Kim, and they now have a romantic relationship together, and it's a very it's an interesting movie for a number of reasons, considering that this is 1996, and a movie like this involving a transgender woman is very unusual for the time period. Like, it's not a film that would have garnered a whole lot of attention, but it comes way before, groundbreaking films like Transamerica would come along, and that didn't come along until at least 10 more years after this. But I'd never seen this movie before, but judging from what I've seen from it, it's a very interesting concept, honestly. And I'm actually kind of curious to see how this actually does pan out. I don't know if this would be something that's actually kind of unique or to be something great or something spectacular, but the fact that this came almost 10 years before Transamerica really took off and really branched as a film that kind of opened the doors for transgender people in film and television. It's a very interesting concept here. I don't see anything from Rotten Tomatoes on here in terms of critical reviews for it, but it did win a grand prize at the Americas Award at the 1996 Montreal World Film Festival and garnered critical praise at the Sundance Film Festival. So, like I said, I don't really know for sure if this movie's any good or not, but it definitely has my curiosity just for the concept alone. This just seems like it's something that could be really interesting, could be very fun too, but it looks like a very interesting film. I'd be definitely curious to check it out one day, but yeah, wanted to cover that one there. So that's Different for Girls. So let's go ahead and move on to the last movie we have here, and that is Bandwagon.
What do you guys want to do with this band? Well, we want to be successful, you know?
Let me explain to you how the business works.
Count me out. We could be talking jumbo coin here. You're going to turn that down. Maybe not.
Like you're going to be a big star, huh?
Oh, yeah.
So this is a film where you have four young men who hardly know each other, but here they are in the most volatile and tenuous of unions of man. They find themselves hurtling through an exhilarating adventure on a collision course with self-discovery or self-destruction. It's a rollicking rock and roll road trip that will take you to the starving edge of the independent music scene. You have Charlie, Eric, Tony, and Wynn. Like I said, they hardly know each other, but here they are. It's just basically telling me the same plot again. I've never seen this movie, so that's why I'm reading right off of IMDb, because I have no recollection of this movie whatsoever. It looks like a mix of both Spinal Tap and The Commitments. I don't know for sure if it's supposed to be a mockumentary or it's supposed to be like a straightforward scripted film. I mean, it doesn't really give you a good guesstimation of what it actually is. But it's directed by John Schultz, who gave us such wonderful classics like, he gave us Drive Me Crazy, like Mike, The Honeymooners, Aliens in the Attic, Judy Moody and the Not Bomber Summer, Adventures in Babysitting, the Disney Channel remake, A Christmas Prince, The Royal Wedding, and A Christmas Prince, The Royal Baby. Well, I guess you could probably say that even though I've never seen this movie, this is probably the best thing this guy's directed, because most of those movies are not very good. So I will go as far as to say that this has got to be his best movie, because it can't get any worse than this film. It can't get any worse than it can't get any better than this. I mean, whatever I'm trying to say here. Bottom line, I've never seen this movie, so I don't know if it's any good or not, but it's probably the best thing this guy's ever done, so there you go, Bandwagon. Oh, it's got Kevin Corrigan in it, too. That's one of the other things I noticed about it, but other than that, I have nothing else to say about this one, Bandwagon.
The Howard Brackett from Greenleaf, Indiana, and he's gay.
The word is out. Howard, I'm not gay. In and Out is the funniest movie of the year.
We'll be laughing about it, laughing.
Excuse me.
Sister Oliva give it 2 thumbs up.
We just never ran into each other here at the intersection. Homosexual. Intersection.
And Rolling Stone calls it a comedy knockout.
Whoa.
In and Out.
Why does anyone believe me? My mom, my dad. Look at my hand.
Rated PG-13. Everywhere Friday, September 19th.
So the inspiration for this movie was, believe it or not, goes all the way back to Tom Hanks' 1994 speech when he won his Academy Award for Best Actor for Philadelphia. And during his speech, he mentions 2 people in particular, and that was the inspiration for this particular film.
I would not be standing here if it weren't for 2 very important men in my life. So, 2 that I haven't spoken with in a while, but I had the pleasure of just the other evening. Mr. Wally Farnsworth was my high school drama teacher, who taught me that act well the part, there all the glory lies. And one of my classmates under Mr. Farnsworth, Mr. John Gilkerson. I mention their names because they are two of the finest gay Americans, two wonderful men that I had the good fortune to be associated with, to fall under their inspiration at such a young age. I wish my babies could have the same sort of teacher, the same sort of friends.
So yeah, the writer of this movie, Paul Rudnick, saw that and said, you know, there's potential here for a comedy around this concept, so let's go ahead and do that. And this became one of the more notable first-time attempts from Hollywood to do a comedic gay movie, a mainstream comedic gay movie of its era, even though they had tried to do this several times beforehand. In the 80s, they actually had a couple of movies that tried to be like this. Even Paramount had one with Ryan O'Neal and John Hurt called Partners, which, believe it or not, was originally intended for Clint Eastwood and Woody Allen, and Eastwood only would have agreed to do it if Woody Allen would have come in and done it. He never did, and that film came and went. Nobody ever really talks about it, but but unlike Partners, this one was actually very successful. Of course, you have the story behind this is Kevin Kline plays this English literary teacher. He lives his quiet town in this town of Greenleaf. One of his former students, played by Matt Dillon, wins an Academy Award for Best Actor, and while he's talking about the people that inspired him, he wins the award and thanks Howard, and also says that he's gay, which leads to the whole town questioning whether or not he's actually gay or not, and Kevin Kline actually questioning his own masculinity throughout the course of the film. And really, there's a lot here that could easily go wrong, but because the script is so smart and because they have a great director here and a cast that's fully in game for this type of movie, the movie just works really well here. This is a really, really funny movie. It's a hilarious comedy. Kevin Kline shows a lot of his comic genius that he's been proven to show all the way back to A Fish Called Wanda, where he won the Oscar for that. Joan Cusack is very funny in here. She actually got nominated for an Academy Award for Best Supporting Actress, but lost to another movie that came out this very same weekend to somebody in that film, but we'll get to that one in a little bit. You know, Tom Selleck in this movie, man. Like, you know, Tom Selleck is a very conservative actor. You see him nowadays on Blue Bloods, and there was a time between Magnum P.I. and Blue Bloods where he was just struggling to pick good movies. I mean, he picked some really terrible movies. Once in a while, he'd get something like a Three Men and a Baby type of success, but most of his movies were terrible. But in this movie, not only does he play a very funny character here, and it's fully game for this role. I mean, he has a notable 12-second kiss between him and Kevin Kline, and you know, it's incredible that he was able to go all in, like, despite everything he doesn't believe in. The fact that he's very, very conservative, the fact that he went for this and went all the way with it, like, it just shows that how committed he was to this role. I mean, everybody here is very committed to this. I mean, Wilford Brimley, he didn't get along with Frank Oz, but he still turned in a good performance in this. So did Debbie Reynolds. Matt Dillon is great in here, as well as Bob Newhart. I mean, there's a really good cast here. There's a lot of really good comedy overall here. It's just a smart, very funny comedy that really has a good time with it. It plays it safe while also trying to be very sympathetic and actually try to have a very good message to it. And technically, it doesn't really have the strongest ending possible. It wasn't a bad ending per se, but it still does. It easily could have been a whole lot better, honestly. But at the same time, it's not a bad ending whatsoever, and it does have a nice little message there at the end of it. And it's a great movie. I really recommend this film. I know this film was a big success when it came out, but you don't hear a lot of people really talk about it nowadays. And I think it's ahead of it. It was a movie that was ahead of its time. I think it's a very funny film. It tackles a very touchy subject in a very good way, in a very good manner, and it's just a really funny movie. I mean, everything about it just works, except for the ending a little bit. It could have been a whole lot better, but it still works fine for what it is. But this is a really fantastic film. I can't recommend this one enough. If you have not seen In and Out, do yourself a huge favor and check it out, because you will not be disappointed by it. It's a very, very funny movie. Our next movie can also be a very funny movie, but I'm pretty sure that was never the intention of the people who made it. It's the Wes Craven presented Wishmaster.
Watch that crate, that's very expensive!
For centuries, he has remained hidden, watching, waiting. And now, he is coming. He knows your secret hopes. He sees your private dreams, and he can grant your every desire.
Well, no. Greedy, man. How about $1 million? I remember a certain potentate whose last party was talked about for centuries. God, how I'd love to host a party like that.
I wish to be beautiful forever.
Even if it kills you.
As you wish.
Was it worth it? What do you like to escape? Beg for your life.
Help me!
Pray for your soul. But whatever you do, ready to crash. Don't make a wish. Wish, master. Careful what you wish for.
I mean, come on. Were those really the best visual effects you can put in the trailer? I mean, like, that right there should have been the red flag going into this movie. I mean, that was those were horrible special effects. I mean, a good idea overall, but I'm sorry, I can't take that seriously when you have visual effects that look as terrible as that. I mean, Spawn looked like it had better effects than this movie did, and that had terrible visual effects by comparison. This is a Wes Craven produced film, and this was when, around that time period, when if you put Wes Craven's name on top of anything, he had that Wes Craven Presents series where if you put his name on top of it, it's supposed to sell the movie better, but maybe not. Maybe it doesn't really, because most of the movies that had that under his name were not very good. Notably, it's done by Robert Kurtzman. Robert Kurtzman is a name that you should be very familiar with. He's done stuff for... He did the Sci-Fi Channel's miniseries Dune. He worked on Chronicles of Narnia. He did From Dusk Till Dawn. He did a whole lot of effects work on those shows. He did The Haunting of Hill House, Jay and Silent Bob Reboot, Ma, Dr. Sleep. He's done a lot of stuff, and he did some stuff back in the day too. He did stuff for Predator, Nightmare on Elm Street 3, Evil Dead 2. I mean, this is a guy whose work you have seen, and he is a notable film person behind the scenes. So this was a chance for him to break out on his own, and excuse me. But yeah, as far as the movie itself goes, it's got a good idea to it, just a bad execution. And this is something that people have been trying to do again ever since this movie came out. I mean, 20 years after this, there was that terrible movie Wish Upon, which was not very good either. And it's a film that's trying to have something unique and interesting to make it kind of stand out, but the visual effects and just some of the lackluster characters you don't really get into or have any interest in watching whatsoever just kind of ruins it in general. I mean, it wasn't a very good film overall, but it was a hit. It made 3 times its budget back. I mean, $5 million, made $15 million. Of course, they made many sequels, and judging by the fact that these all went direct to video, and their budgets probably got even worse and worse as they went along, I'm willing to bet that these movies are not that good. But once again, a good concept, just bad execution, and just a largely forgotten movie, honestly. I mean, it doesn't seem like a film that really had a whole lot there to work with, honestly. So let's get back to actually some good movies. We have Curtis Hanson's L.A. Confidential.
They were 3 cops who had nothing in common.
Freeze! Big B, what are you doing here? Hey, you know me, keeping the streets safe, boys.
One would do anything to get ahead.
You're truly prepared to be despised within the department? Yes, sir, I am.
One had his own brand of justice.
How's it gonna look in your report? It'll look like justice. That's what the man got.
And one loved the spotlight.
What exactly do you do on the show, Jack?
I teach Brett Chase how to walk and talk like a cop.
The Night Owl Massacre. This is a heinous crime that requires swift resolution. 6 victims. One of them, one of our own. Interrogations will be led by Lieutenant Ebenexley.
I need some backup. Come in.
All right, fellas, boy, I'll help.
Now, all of them are faced with solving one case.
Don't move!
I want confessions, Edmund.
Oh, I'll break them, sir. These people are all in the morgue. And someone has to pay for it.
There's something wrong with the Night Owl.
I just can't prove.
They thought they had it all figured out.
Anything bothering you about the Night Owl case?
The fact that you guys won't let it get filed away.
I didn't kill nobody!
But what started as a murder
You talk only to me on this one.
became a mystery that could cost them everything.
Why was Susan Lefferts the Night Owl?
I don't know. I never heard of the Night Owl till today.
How about some payback, big time?
We need evidence. I'll get the evidence.
was an information exchange.
Do you have any proof?
The proof had his throat slit. What do you want, actually?
I just want to solve this thing.
Even if it means paying the consequences?
Spacey, Russell Crowe, Guy Pearce, James Cromwell, Kim Basinger, Danny DeVito. L.A. Confidential.
This is one of my all-time favorite movies. It's the movie that I always go back to every once in a while, along with Heat. And I usually watch Heat and this back-to-back. I mean, these are movies that... This is a movie that I absolutely love. Curtis Hanson, of course, directed this movie. It was also co-written by Brian Helgeland, based off the novel by James Elroy. Features a great cast. It includes Guy Pearce, Russell Crowe, who were relatively unknown back at the time. And as soon as this film came out, their careers took off big time. And of course, you have veteran actors like Kevin Spacey, Danny DeVito, Kim Basinger. Kim Basinger won the Academy Award for Best Supporting Actress for this. And it's just an entertaining movie. It has a great mystery overall. You're following these cops in 1953 as they're trying to figure out this case that they're going through, and they all have their different stories going on. And it's just a brilliantly executed film. The movie is very entertaining. The visual look of the film is fantastic. The cinematography by Dante Spinotti is top notch. The writing overall is very solid. Kim Basinger is really good in the film. I really didn't think that she is. When I remember watching this movie the first time, I didn't think her performance was all that great, and I was looking back and thinking, she really won Best Supporting Actress for this. But then when you watch it again afterwards, you're just kind of like, you know what? I can actually see it now. She really is giving it her all in this movie. Guy Pearce is very good in here as well. Russell Crowe is also very good here. Kevin Spacey, Danny DeVito, James Cromwell is also in here. David Strathairn. It's a really solid movie and a really good mystery that keeps you in suspense as the film goes on. You just keep getting invested in what's going on here, and you're wondering, how is it going to end? How is this going to end up when it's all said and done? And it leaves on a very good high note here. It's a very entertaining film, a very engaging film. It's one of my all-time favorite movies. It's one I go back to every couple of years, and I'm always still impressed on how great it ended up becoming, because it really is one of the best noir movies you'll ever see, one of the best crime thrillers ever. Fantastic film. If you haven't seen LA Confidential, do yourself a favor and check this movie out. You're doing yourself a huge disservice by not doing so. With that said, on to the next movie that we have here, and that is the star-studded 1,000 Acres.
Critics are hailing 1,000 Acres as an emotional tour de force. Vivid and compelling, touching and emotionally explosive.
Looking like a scandal to make me feel better.
Michelle Pfeiffer and Jessica Lange give Oscar-caliber performances in the best drama of the year. It's a film you won't forget.
I'd always assumed we'd be together forever.
1,000 Acres, rated R, starts Friday, September 19th at a theater near you.
So this is based off of the Pulitzer Prize-winning novel of the same name by James Smiley, which in and of itself is a reworking of William Shakespeare's King Lear. You basically have Jason Robards in there playing the title character of that play, with the characters of Ginny, Rose, and Caroline, played by Michelle Pfeiffer, Jessica Lange, and Jennifer Jason Leigh. They represent Lear's daughters, and the dramatic catalyst in both works in the division of the father's estate among their three offspring, causing bitter rivalry and also leading to tragedy. Which, in this movie, honestly, this isn't a bad idea, just a wrong execution, mostly because you really don't know who you're supposed to like in this movie. Are you supposed to really find all these people detestable, or what? Because you really cannot figure out who you're supposed to like in this film. Like, everybody in this movie has something that's against them in some way that you cannot like in any way, shape, or form. I thought the performances overall by the ladies in here were fine. Michelle Pfeiffer's very good in here, so is Jessica Lange, so is Jennifer Jason Leigh. Jason Robards, I think, is alright in here as well. You also have Colin Firth, Keith Carradine, Pat Hingle. You see Michelle Williams in there as well, Elizabeth Moss, John Carroll Lynch. I mean, it's got some good talent in here, but just there's not a good story in here to really make it stand out or make anything unique about it. And it never feels like you get anywhere. It feels also melodramatic. All the emotional set pieces feel like it's manipulative as all hell. It's a long movie, and you wonder where this went wrong, because this director made How to Make an American Quilt, which was a decent film 2 years prior to this, and I just don't think there was any real direction that they really had going into this. I just felt like they were trying to make whatever movie they can out of the most popular book at the time, and it'll sell itself here, and it just really doesn't, man. It's a film that really was one of the big disappointments when I saw it the first time, and probably it was best to see that, like, to hear from Siskel and Ebert when they put it on their worst of the year list. Maybe that should have been a warning sign right there to say that this probably isn't going to be all that great, but sure enough, they were right on. This is not a very good film whatsoever. It's a pretty mediocre film that should have been a whole lot better considering all the things it had going for it, and it did not. And for a better example of this, we can go ahead and move on to the next film, which is The Myth of Fingerprints.
Consider the nuclear family. The parents.
Oh, the kids look good, huh?
There are more of them than I remember.
The children.
Good morning.
Oh, there you are. It's almost 1 o'clock. You sure you don't want to sleep a few more hours?
The significant others.
It's nice to be out here.
Hey, get up here and kill the spider.
She hates spiders.
I got it.
It's a complex system of highly charged particles.
That's my sister.
When placed closely together,
Can you just kiss me?
these particles tend to interact unpredictably,
Why can't you just be a normal human being?
becoming...
Now, The Myth of Fingerprints has pretty much a similar plot to 1,000 Acres. I mean, you're basically following a dysfunctional family, this time during Thanksgiving in New England, and all the situations that they end up going through here. You have a good cast overall in this film. Julianne Moore, Roy Scheider, Blythe Danner, Noah Weil, Hope Davis, Lauren Holloman, Michael Vartan from Alias, James LaGrosse. I mean, there is a good cast involved in this film, and it's a good ensemble film for a first-time director in Bart... Actually, this is a first-time director, Bart Frudenlynch, who later went on to make Trust the Man, as well as stuff like The Rebound and After the Wedding, and most notoriously Catch That Kid. This movie, honestly, works a lot better than 1,000 Acres does, mostly because you actually do want to follow these characters along. You don't feel like these characters are being manipulated onto you, or feel like they're just characters that you're supposed to root for, and you don't even know you don't know a whole lot about them. But in this movie, you actually do get a sense of what these characters are going through, and you actually want to go along for these adventures, even though you're still trying to figure out, are they doing the right thing? Are we supposed to like these characters? Or are we supposed to not like them? It's just like... But overall, I thought the cast here was very good, and I thought the situations that they found themselves in overall were much more interesting and much more engaging than what 1,000 Acres was trying to do. I think this is a much better movie. Not a classic film by any means necessary, but it's a film that I really did enjoy. I thought it was an enjoyable film. Probably not one I'd watch over and over again, but I'm glad I got to see it when I did. It's actually a really enjoyable film. I do recommend checking it out. The Myth of Fingerprints, it's actually a pretty entertaining film. With that said, let's go ahead and move on to the next movie, and that is Ben Affleck in Going All the Way.
Indianapolis. Shortly, huh? Tom Castle. Gunner. Oh, yeah, hell, everybody knows you. And you're the photographer, right?
Does your new friend make it a habit of going to bars in the middle of the afternoon?
Gunner! I've always kind of been more of an outer-directed guy. I'm starting to become more inner-directed. Gonna learn Zen in Japan.
That's not all I learned.
Say you could only eat one thing for the rest of your life, right? Say, I don't know, peach pie.
Oh, she is so girl.
Maybe peach pie is great to you, but that's all you get? I really think he's onto something.
So this is one of Mark Pellington's earlier films as a director. He'd later go on to do stuff like Arlington Road, as well as The Mothman Prophecies, and this is a story about two young men who returned home to Indianapolis after serving time in the Army during the Korean War, as they search for love and fulfillment in Middle America during the conservative 1950s. And you see Jeremy Davies, Ben Affleck, Amy Locrane, Rachel Weisz, Rose McGowan's also in here, as well as Joe Clayburgh and Leslie Ann Warren. Great cast overall in this movie. But this movie has been notoriously known now as the film where Rose McGowan has said that she alleged that Harvey Weinstein raped her while at the festival that year. And of course, we all know what happened with Harvey Weinstein. And apparently this has a following, because 25 years after this movie came out, they actually did a re-edit of this movie they rescanned it and added 50 more minutes of additional footage in here, as well as added a new title sequence and all that. So I've never seen the original cut of this film, so I don't know for certain if it's any good or not, but I've seen little bits and pieces of this, and I thought it was actually okay from the little bit that I've seen from it. It actually has some decent reviews to it from what I see here too, so maybe the film itself overall is very good, but I haven't seen all of it to really get a good grasp on it. I've only seen like bits and pieces of it, but from what I've seen, it certainly isn't the worst thing I've ever seen, and it does work because the performances are so good in here. I mean, you have a really good cast overall here in this film that could make this material work as well as it should. So I have no reason to believe this movie isn't. I have no reason to believe this movie isn't good. I mean, this film should be pretty enjoyable to watch, considering the little bits I saw there, plus the cast that it has involved in. So, quick one on that one. So that is Going All the Way. Let's go ahead and move on to the last one we have here, the documentary, The Long Way Home.
In London, they crowd the squares to cheer the end of 6 long years of war. Even in Palestine, there is dancing in the streets.
For us, the victory had come too late. Much too late.
Within a few weeks of the arrival of the Allies, some 11 million refugees wandered through a nightmare land of famine, disease, and desperation.
As I said, this is a documentary depicting the plight of the Jewish refugees after World War II had ended that contributed to the creation of the State of Israel. And the film is basically, the emphasis is on the pitiful conditions for Jewish refugees in Europe after the war, as anti-Semitism was still rife and poverty was common. It also shows how immigration to the British Mandate of Palestine became a goal for many, but that British immigration rules often resulted in them being detained in camps in Cyprus. And the eventual formation of the State of Israel is then shown, with emphasis on the debates in the White House between Palestinian Jews, President Truman, and the United Nations. You hear Morgan Freeman's narration there, but you also hear the narrations of people like Edward Asner, Sean Astin, Martin Landau, Miriam Margolyes, David Paymer, Nina Simasko, Helen Slater, Michael York. And the film won the Academy Award for Best Documentary Feature that year. And that's really all I know about the film, honestly. I'm just reading it off Wikipedia here because I've never really seen this before, and I don't deny that this thing could probably be really good. I mean, it seems like a very interesting idea for a good documentary, so this could be something that could be very entertaining. I just never had the real interest in watching it on my own on my own personal time right now, but I wouldn't be against watching it at some point. I mean, it does look like it could be a very interesting find to watch, so that's all I really know about that one. So that's The Long Way Home.
Sources indicate this blast was 50 to 100 times more powerful than the one in Hiroshima, Japan. Initial projections indicate the nuclear fallout will affect all of...
It was an SS-18-10 warhead. 1 detonated, 8 with you. That leaves 1 unaccounted for.
I got away with a bomb. On September 26th.
We have a weapon of mass destruction coming into the United States.
George Clooney.
Now, you are not in Washington anymore. You are in the real world.
Nicole Kidman.
I'm not afraid of the man who wants 10 nuclear weapons, Colonel. I'm terrified of the man who only wants 1.
The Peacemaker. Rated R.
Of course, The Peacemaker is most notably known as the first official release from DreamWorks SKG, which of course is Steven Spielberg, Jeffrey Katzenberg, and David Geffen's film company they put together when Jeffrey Katzenberg was fired by Disney, and Steven Spielberg launched his own film company along with David Geffen, whose Geffen Pictures was still making some films, but not as much as they did back in the 80s and 90s. So they came together and they started putting out movies, and this was the first movie they put out with George Clooney and Nicole Kidman in it. It's a political thriller where you have Clooney as a U.S. Army colonel and Nicole Kidman as a civilian woman who's supervising him. They have to track down stolen Russian nuclear weapons before they're used by terrorists. And film did very well. It was the #1 movie when it came out, which for a first-time studio to have a film that come out at #1 like this, that's a pretty good accomplishment. And you could probably say that most of the buzz was because it was Steven Spielberg, Jeffrey Katzenberg, and David Geffen's company making their first film, especially Steven Spielberg's name alone. I mean, that probably sold the tickets more than George Clooney and Nicole Kidman. I mean, George Clooney was not a household name in movies just yet, even though he still was very much a household name on TV with ER, and Nicole Kidman's career was slowly but surely building. And the movie overall is nothing that spectacular, honestly. Like, it's nothing we haven't seen done over and over again. I mean, this is a story that's been pretty formulaic, but I think Clooney and Kidman carried the load through. It makes for a somewhat enjoyable film for the most part, but it's not one that's really going to warrant a lot of rewatchability overall. It's a film that, it's fine for what it is, but it's not probably the best way to start this company off. But then again, DreamWorks would eventually show their true potential in the years to come, especially the next year with Saving Private Ryan coming out, and then the start of DreamWorks Animation and how that has transpired over the years. I mean, for a first film from the studio, it's not the best, but we know what follows afterwards, so in a way, it's fine for what it is. It's nothing too spectacular, it's nothing too incredible, it's nothing too amazing, but the performances by Clooney and Kidman, I think, overall do carry the film over to making it somewhat okay for what it is. It's not a bad movie by any means necessary, but just not a great movie overall, so yeah. Fine for what it is, but no classic by any means necessary. You can watch it once, and you'd probably be okay with it after. You probably never want to watch it again after that. But let's go ahead and move on to the next movie we have here, and that is Soul Food.
Who is that hoochie coochie mama with her big butt all over my husband out there on the dance floor? This is my party day. I'm supposed to be happy. Everybody's happy. But we'd be more happy if we go out there and eat that whole day. This is my family. Y'all try my fish cakes? My plate's full.
My plate's full, too.
Miss Dean can't cook. As you can see, we really had some good times. Real? This is my sister's baby. Oh,
Give it this.
but we've had some bad times, too.
I was fired from my job today. Don't want to tell a woman, a black woman, especially a black woman, you ain't got a J-O-B.
What are you doing home in the middle of the afternoon?
Don't tell her.
Sometimes. Why'd you come back here for? What are you going to do this time? It seems like no one's ever going to speak to each other again. And what are you going to say, huh?
Can we talk about it?
Can we talk about what? But then Big Mama comes to the rescue. You're trying to get everybody together for Sunday dinner, aren't you? Big Mama wants me to. She knows exactly what to do to bring us all back home.
You know, honestly, to kind of run down the plot for it, I feel like I have to show you the Boondocks clip.
We're gonna pause this for the benefit of all y'all who never saw Soul Food. Soul Food is a movie about a big, humongous black grandmother, aptly named Big Mama. Big Mama demonstrates her love by feeding herself and her offspring enormous amounts of pig lard. Then, get this, Big Mama's arteries are so clogged, they gotta amputate her arm.
It was her leg!
Right, okay, whatever, leg. Then, she dies of a heart attack. Or another stroke, or something.
God called her home.
And what does the family do after she dies? They get together for a Sunday dinner and eat the same food that just killed Big Mama. The same food! They didn't learn a lesson. Nobody went on a diet, and that's the end of the movie.
I mean, he's not wrong. That's literally the plot of the movie, and that's literally what happens in it. And, it's, you know, honestly, I've seen it before. I've seen it because it's on the double feature DVD set for Waiting to Exhale that I have. But honestly, it's not the worst thing ever. But at the same time, the Boondocks kind of made the best honest things you could say about that movie, honestly. Because really, the whole message of the movie is that this woman, this grandmother who cooks all this food, ends up having a stroke, having her leg amputated, and going into a coma and dying. And then by the end of the movie, they're just eating the same food that killed her in this case here. Like, in a way, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Like, it feels like it's just kind of setting these people up for them to follow in her footsteps. But with that said, though, it's not a bad movie per se. It's not even a really terrible movie. It's a pretty enjoyable movie, mostly because of the cast involved. You see Vanessa Williams in there. You see Vivica A. Fox, Neil Long. You see Michael Beach, Mekhi Phifer, Irma P. Hall playing the grandmother. There's a good cast involved in here. Its heart is in the right place, and it is a fairly entertaining movie, honestly. It is a film that, despite the obvious kind of flaws in terms of the story structure, it's fine for what it is. For an ensemble piece, I think it works fine for what it is, but it's definitely one of those movies that doesn't warrant a whole lot of rewatchability to it. I mean, kind of like with The Peacemaker, I watched it one time, and I was just kind of like, it's fine for what it is. And I think after I saw the Boondocks episode where they parodied that, I think I gained kind of not that much of a respect for it afterwards, because they pretty much summed up the problem with the movie overall. But like I said, it's not the worst thing ever. It's a decently made film. It has a good cast to work off it. Its heart is in the right place, and it does show a good, honest depiction of a more positive image of African Americans than what was seen at the time period when you had all these gangster movies coming out. These gangster movies and these black films like Boys in the Hood and Do the Right Thing coming out at the time. It is nice to see a more positive image like that every once in a while, and I think the movie did a pretty good job with it for the most part. Not a classic by any means necessary. It's not one I'd watch over and over again, but I thought it was fine for what it is. I don't have any ill will towards it whatsoever, but I think the Boondocks did kind of give me a little bit more ill will than I should have, because that joke, their way of summing up this movie was just pure perfection there. I mean, I got nothing else for you on that one. So that's Soul Food. So let's go ahead and move on to the next movie we have here, and that is Alec Baldwin and Anthony Hopkins in The Edge.
A photographer with an eye for beauty.
Okay, great. Let's do one more. Nice looking lady. Well?
Yes, but not. A man of wealth who lived through wars.
Boss knows everything. Good question to ask him.
I seem to retain all these facts, but put them to any useful purpose is another matter.
Each the essence of the civilized man.
Well, Charles, we're going on an impromptu adventure. You come too. All that money, never knowing what people value you for. I think your wife's being cute too.
So, how are you planning to kill me? But when civilization disappears...
Why do you even think they'll come looking for us? Our friend's a billionaire. You know what happens when you misplace one?
all they have is each other to rely on.
Most people lost wives, die of shame. They didn't do the one thing which could save their lives.
Thinking their will to survive. And the question...
Like, you gotta love how Anthony Hopkins knows that Alec Baldwin's after him and he wants his wife, but he's just going along for the ride, and he's gonna kill him first before he even gets the chance to kill him. And you also kind of have to think when those birds are hitting the plane, for some reason I think Alec Baldwin set that up. Like, I don't know how he did it, but that just seemed too perfectly timed, at least in that trailer. But this is The Edge, and like I said, the plot follows Anthony Hopkins and Alec Baldwin, who are kind of in this rivalry for Anthony Hopkins' wife. So their plane crashes in the Alaskan wilderness, and along with their assistant, played by Harold Perrineau, they have to trek through the elements to try to survive, all while being hunted by this Kodiak bear and the men's fraying friendships. The Kodiak bear in this, played by Bart the Bear, who is known for being in several of these movies, is the bloodthirsty Kodiak in this one, in one of his last film roles. So it's a very uneven film, but it's a David Mamet movie, and David Mamet usually writes a lot of really good, entertaining movies, and this is pretty fun for what it is. I like seeing Anthony Hopkins and Alec Baldwin going at each other's necks, and you do wonder how this is going to pan out in the end. Like, what's going to be the big resolution at the end of the movie? Are they actually going to kill each other, or are they going to establish somewhat of an alliance together, I should say? For what it is, it does a pretty good job of keeping you on the edge of your seat. The sequences where they're trying to survive the elements are very well done. There's a lot of good action sequences all around here. The visual look of the film is really impressive, and for this director, Lee Tamahori, who would later go on to... the last film he did was Mulholland Drive, and would later go on to do Along Came a Spider, and then the infamous Die Another Day. It's probably the best film he's ever directed, honestly, judging by his filmography here. Yeah, for the most part, it's an entertaining movie, and you get invested because, A, Alec Baldwin and Anthony Hopkins work off each other so well, and B, the script by David Mamet, which is uneven at times, but at the same time, it does work very well for what it is. I usually have nothing against David Mamet. I do like a lot of his movies, so maybe I kind of have a soft spot to it, honestly, but not an overall perfect film, but still one that's pretty enjoyable, too. That's The Edge. So let's go ahead and move on to the next movie we have here, and that is Donald Sutherland and Aidan Quinn in The Assignment.
Terrorism is regrettably a growing industry.
In the secret wars between nations, there are soldiers and heroes. There are martyrs and madmen. And there are the men in the shadows who lead them.
Everyone, please! My name is Carlos.
For 20 years, Carlos the Jackal led a reign of terror so brutal. His capture was an international obsession.
The Austrians want a positive ID. That's when your name came up. Henry Fields, CIA.
You recognize the terrorists as Carlos.
They're both very well known in this business.
So this is a strange concept. This is based off of a story. It's set mostly in the 1980s, deals with the CIA plan to use Anthony Quinn's character to masquerade as this Venezuelan terrorist called Carlos the Jackal, even though you see Carlos played by Aidan Quinn in the beginning. It's a very odd concept. I've never seen this movie, honestly, so I can't really say if it's any good or not, but you see Donald Sutherland in there, as well as Ben Kingsley is also in the film as well. And it's interesting because it's kind of reminiscent to The Jackal, and I think this is somewhat of a remake of The Day of the Jackal, because there was also another remake called The Jackal with Bruce Willis and Richard Gere would come out 2 months after this in '97. I don't know if this is a straight up remake of The Day of the Jackal, even though I don't see anything that says based on The Day of the Jackal for this particular film. I know the other Jackal is a straight up remake of that, but it's an odd movie. It's an odd-looking film, honestly. And I don't know if it's any good or not, but judging by the fact that the Jackal, the Bruce Willis Richard Gere one that comes out after this, did not do very well. It was not a critical hit nor a financial hit, and I don't remember really liking that movie all that much. I gotta say that this one's probably gonna be better. I've never seen it, but judging by the fact that the other Jackal is not a good movie, this probably is a lot better than that. But that's not really saying a whole lot because I haven't seen the film. The director of this also later went on to do The Art of War, and then he also went on to do Extreme Ops and Hitler: The Rise of Evil. So he's not the best director overall, but at the same time, considering what else came out that year with the other Jackal movie, this is probably better than that one. I gotta at least give it that. But like I said, I haven't seen the movie, so I don't really know for certain. But that came out that weekend. So let's go ahead and move on to the next movie we got here, and that is Ang Lee's The Ice Storm.
Next stop will be New Canaan, Connecticut. New Canaan, Connecticut. Next stop.
Once there was a time when families were strangers.
Aw.
Hey, Dad.
Guy, I'm just confirming you'll be on the 4:40 on Wednesday, right?
So you and your sister can mope around the house, and your mother and I can wait on you hand and foot, while the two of you occasionally grunt for more food.
Neighbors were lovers.
You know, I think Elena might suspect something.
Is that a new aftershave?
Yeah. Musk or something.
And America was learning the truth.
Are you watching this?
Watching what?
Nixon doofus. He's a liar.
Calm down. I wasn't in on it.
So The Ice Storm, as you can tell, takes place during Thanksgiving 1973. It's about two dysfunctional families in Connecticut, two upper-class families. They're trying to deal with the social changes of the early 70s, and they're escapism through alcohol, adultery, and sexual experimentation. You see Kevin Kline in there. You see Joan Allen, Christina Ricci, Tobey Maguire, Sigourney Weaver. Katie Holmes is also in here as well. Elijah Wood, Henry Cerny. Just some notable names in there, and this is Ang Lee's follow-up, of course, to Sense and Sensibility, and it's a pretty good movie. I mean, this is still peak Ang Lee. This was before his somewhat small downfall with Hulk in 2003, and then before his big comeback after that. This is right in the middle of his early peak as a filmmaker, and it is a really good film. It's a really good film with a lot of good performances all around, a lot of good situations in terms of the story. You get invested in the characters and how this is going to transpire in the end. It's an overall really enjoyable movie. It's a film that really is certainly one of the stronger films to come from Lee overall. Like, of all of his films, this is one that I've seen more than once. Every couple is like, I want to say maybe 4 or 5 times in my life I've seen this movie. It's a pretty good movie. It's not one of his best. It's not one of the greatest films he's ever done. I think the greatest film that Ang Lee has ever done is probably Brokeback Mountain. It's a mix between Brokeback Mountain, Hidden Dragon, and Life of Pi. Those are the top 3 that I think of. And this probably would be 4th on the list, honestly. It's that close. It's a really good movie. Kevin Kline gives another great performance, and you see Christina Ricci, Tobey Maguire, and Elijah Wood showing their potential that they would later show in other movies. A great cast overall in this film. Really terrific film. Can't recommend it enough. The Lightstorm, really good film. So let's go ahead and move on to the last one we got here, and that is Trojan War.
Do you have anything?
From the extreme edge of the dating wars comes a comedy about sex.
She's my best friend.
Love.
This is your big move. Take a breath.
No.
Oh, God.
And the quest for a little protection.
No free ride.
Trojan War.
Well, I can tell you the first thing that this movie had wrong with it. PG-13 for a movie about a guy who's trying to buy Trojan condoms and have sex with this girl. PG-13 teen sex comedy. I don't think I need to explain why that's wrong right there. This was a disastrous movie that came out, and it was a $15 million movie. It wasn't a high-budget film. I mean, the stars of this movie were pretty popular at the time. I mean, Will Friedle was still on Boy Meets World. Jennifer Love Hewitt was still on Party of Five. Marley Shelton was a rising actress. So this wasn't a high-budgeted film that could have lost more than it did. But even for a $15 million movie, you know how much money this movie made in total? $309. Let's put it this way. My paycheck is more than $300. There's more money in my wallet than what this movie made. Actually, not really, but you get the idea here. It's amazing that this thing made as little money as it did. In fact, this was only released in one... But here's a couple reasons why. It was only released in one movie theater. It was pulled after 1 week. And then it made $309 against a production budget of $15 million. It is the lowest grossing film since modern record keeping began in the 1980s, which you also got to take into consideration that this isn't even the lowest grossing film ever. I mean, Zizek's Road with Katherine Heigl in 2006 still holds the record. It only made $30 total in its release. And actually, was Zizek's Road featured in more than one theater? I gotta check this. I gotta look at this now, just to be sure here. Zizek Road. I know this is just dead air here, but hold on. Okay, I found it. Zizek's Road was shown once a day at noon. So, okay, that makes more sense because this was only shown once a day for a week, and it only made $30. Zizek's Road was in one theater all day, and made only $300 total. $300 million would have been a miracle, but so yeah, Trojan War was not the big hit that they wanted it to be, and it's George Huang who directed this movie, who did the brilliant Swimming with Sharks, and this was his follow-up film. And you gotta wonder what the hell happened. Like, why did this not get the proper treatment? I mean, once again, it has to do with the fact that it's a PG-13 movie about teen sex and buying condoms. I mean, that's pretty much self-explanatory there, but how do you go from Swimming with Sharks to this? I mean, this is... If the movie was any good, then probably there'd be a reason to really look at it more as something in an enjoyable film, but no, this movie really does not do that. It's a lazy comedy that's not funny. The sex in this movie is not engaging because it's PG-13. You don't get any satisfaction from watching this, and you don't like these characters, really. Like, the jokes in this movie just aren't funny. The film overall isn't that entertaining. I think Warner Brothers knew that this was going to be bad from the get-go, and that's why this didn't have a huge track record. Most people, not just me, but most people probably have more money in their wallets right now than this movie made in its entire run. Just think about that for a second. That's pretty pathetic for this movie, and you can see why it didn't do very well here. So I think we're done with this one here. Honestly, there's no real way to define this movie except it's one of the biggest bombs ever. I mean, it's one of the biggest flops ever, and it wasn't even that good of a movie to begin with. So maybe WB was onto something here. You should have just shipped it off to video. I mean, if Theodore Rex can go straight to video, then why the hell didn't this go straight to video either? So anyway, so that's Trojan War for you.